Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Karen. This is another video that I am sharing of a tall skinny journal that I will be taking along to the retreat in Vermont in April and sharing it with my class, that one of the classes that I will be demonstrating there on journal covers. What makes this little sweetheart unique is it's got a technique for the page system that I wanted to save to share it with the ladies at the retreat first before I was able to publish this video. So that's what my goals are here. I did an overview of this one in a previous video, just sharing the cover. So it's got vintage lace wrapped around the front and the back, beautiful pearl braided roped trim that was gifted to me by Georgianne, and it is covering this veiled pocket that I have been using lately. I really like that effect. It's got a pocket in the front and the back. This is a sweet little girl. It's a digital image from Raindrop Lila. I think her kit is called Peachy. The book page is in French, and it is backed onto some line journaling card topped with sari silk. And I've sewn vintage buttons down the spine. Spine is 1/2 inch. These are 10 inches tall by 5 inches wide. And I've tied a vintage scarf on the front to just hold it together. I've used fabric that has metallic threads in it, and I like the rough edges raw showing. This pocket has a tall tag that I have used some book page, digital image, some stamping, an antique applique, some seam binding, and some pretty little vintage buttons attached to the bottom of the seam binding, backed onto some lined cardstock. And that pops into this pocket here. I've got a pocket on the inside cover of some more vintage lace. This is white, and it's just, I call it veiling because it just veils the whole page and kind of mutes out the inside background pages, whatever is behind the veiled lace. Tall journaling card, extra paper for writing on. This is made out of, this tag is made out of some artisan paper that looks like vintage wallpaper, and it's in this iridescent champagne color, and I've got some beautiful antique lace at the top here with yellow. I don't use yellow very often, but it's like a yellowy gold. I love it. It's so sweet. Backed onto parchment paper. So the pages are a cascading, staggered waterfall effect. You've got narrower pages in the front going wider towards the back. And it just creates a nice waterfall effect. I don't put lace on the edges of these pages because I don't want it to be hidden. I want you to be able to see each page as you're using the journal. So these digitals, I do believe they're all from Raindrop Lila. Her kits are, this particular one was quite large. And if it's not hers, of course, I'm going to include the artist who created the digitals kits in the description of this video. I've used some vintage sheet music, and I've reinforced it with some vintage lace just to hold it secure into the spine. Sometimes the book pages and music paper tend to crack, and I find if I use lace on those particular ones, it's pretty, it's transparent, and it just serves the purpose of adding extra support. Some vintage lace draped across both sides of the signature there. Another lace swatch card. The idea came from Lorna Taylor, and I've used it quite a bit. I just love it. So fun to use vintage and antique laces. Just a piece of scrapbook paper folded over into a flap, stitched, stapled, and some chiffon sari silk is what I have used. You can attach a bulb pin and a dangle, certainly, if you would like, with a charm. And just a couple of pieces of lace. Just add such sweet texture. And are functional. If you want to reuse the lace, feel free. Such pretty digitals. On this side of the page, I've got a little paper clip with a dangle as well as a piece of seam binding ribbon. This tag has some beautiful vintage lace trim on it and just some scrapbooking paper with paper punched edges, a French dictionary word, and some more digitals. Page from Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen. Gorgeous digitals. Aren't these colors just so beautiful? Got some more vintage lace across the bottom and a journaling card. I've just used scrapbook paper and made it into a very basic journaling card. I just like the colors and the theme, and you can see that I've got the butterflies on the bottom. I do use butterflies quite a bit. I just love them. And I've made a journaling card or a tag from vintage wallpaper. Just the texture and the image are amazing. It almost looks like this is painted, watercolored right onto the wallpaper. And just use some vintage trim at the bottom and parchment paper in the back. Tucked up into this little spot. So I've written out the instructions on how to do these pages and stagger them about 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch apart as you're building towards the center of the signature. And then before you cut them off, you know, if you want them less than 10 inches, or, well, it's an 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper. So if you fold them in half, vertically they would be about 4 1/8 inches wide, but if you fold them horizontally, they would still be almost 11 inches. So for a 10-inch journal, what I do with that extra inch is just fold it over, and then you can use the flap at the bottom of the page or the top. So before you cut all your pages to a 10-inch or less size, I decide which ones I want to use as a pocket. I hope you can understand that. I'm not always the best at explaining myself. Edith Holden book page in the center of the signature. Some lovely little beads and dangles, charms. Still lots of room for journaling in. I've used the pages that say April, March, April, and May, because that's what we're in right now. Early signs of spring. Got a tag on this side that says the word vintage with the description of the meaning of the word. A couple of small tags on this side and a little short little pocket, tuck spot. A journaling card for extra writing. I love the images. Of course, we all love flowers and botanicals. And I did a ruffle on this side of the page made out of velvet curtain panel. Just so beautiful and soft. And I used Odolcina Ann's technique where she sews the ruffle onto a piece of paper and then cuts it off and glues that piece of paper right onto the actual journal page. So you don't see any stitching from the back side, even though it's stitched. So it's reinforced onto the actual ruffle, which is great. Love it. In this pocket, I've got a vintage envelope and a vintage postcard, which I like to include some of in each of my journals. This one, it's stamped New York. That I don't know what the cancellation date for the actual postage was, so I'm just going to say it's vintage because it looks like it is, which it is, of course. And we've got a sweet little tag made out of some vintage wallpaper. It's got a bit of metallic gold in there. It's so pretty. Piece of vintage lace applique and the Fussy Cut Angel backed onto parchment paper. And I've made an envelope here where you can tuck some things into, extra ephemera if you would like. And I've just included one of the Fussy Cut flowers from Odusina Anne. Tiny little Tim Holtz paper clip. I always keep forgetting to use these. Oh, there's another one. And a tag in the back pocket with my business card, some vintage book page, some artisan paper that I've just collaged, some stamping, and a piece of beautiful blush colored pink lace with lined journaling paper on the back. And I've got a glassine envelope that I will tuck a few little extra pieces of ephemera into for the person who gets this journal. And I'm hoping you're liking this technique. It's really simple. I just had to, write the instructions out and measure and so forth because I'm going to be sharing how I did it. And I just love the effect. It's very simple, but I think it's got some great appeal and still very useful, of course, when we're doing our journaling. So those are my tall skinny journals with the waterfall cascading accordion pages. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on my next video. Take care.